Pavlov is one of my favourite VR titles, and in this video we're going to be playing Pavlov with the Valve Index and the Index controllers and talking about how the Valve Index affects one of my favourite VR titles. Let's go! Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Pavlov is basically kind of Counter-Strike, but in virtual reality. I'm sure you guys all know what it is, so I'm not going to bother explaining it in this video. What this video is really about is how the Valve Index affects playing Pavlov, and what I've found using the Valve Index with the Valve Index controllers, the Knuckles controllers, if you will, with this title. So first things first, you know, Pavlov is probably one of my favourite VR games. Just because, you know, there's nothing more fun than shooting your friends in the face. At the moment, I've just got bots here for this video because I want to keep it nice and simple and I don't want everyone shouting at me. Of course, the game has voice over IP online as well, so you can shout at your friends whilst you shoot them in the face, which it makes it even better, and also makes the game modes like Trouble in Terrorist Town work really well. Anyway, so with the Valve Index, the biggest differences I noticed with this game is the first one is that you actually really do appreciate the larger vertical field of view of the Valve Index compared to the HTC Vive and the Rift S, obviously. And also you really appreciate the slightly bigger horizontal field of view. Although the horizontal field of view on the Index isn't particularly massive, it's not that much of a difference compared to the Vive, for example, if you use a 6mm VR cover. But all said and done, the Index basically now is my favourite way to play Pavlov at this point in time, because you get that little bit extra field of view, quite a bit more vertical field of view, but you get that combined with the much more crisp image. And really, we are at a point now with VR headsets, especially the Valve Index, that you really don't see the screen door. And when you're playing this, when you're playing Pavlov, you know, given the size of the maps, and they're kind of very similar, a lot of them, to your sort of average CS Counter-Strike source type map, you can see all the way across the length of wherever you'd be aiming clearly without it being ambiguous. And it just makes you don't feel like the headset is getting in the way of the visuals of being able to see anything, or the general clarity. And with the Index, it's certainly really comfortable visually to play. Whereas I definitely found playing this on the Vive, I would get quite tiring on my eyes over time. But the Index, I've played this for like hour-plus sessions. The only thing getting tired is my legs. Now, I would say, though, the one downside of the Valve Index, and strangely, I'd also say it's slightly more of a downside with the Index than it is on the Rift S, is for whatever reason, the blacks with the Valve Index are just they seem more washed out. Now, on this level, it's not a problem. And a lot of the base levels for this and a lot of the mod levels are actually quite nice and bright, in which case it's just pure immersion and it looks fantastic, very comparable to your sort of real world appearance of brightness and everything. But if you're playing some of the custom maps where it's darker, it immediately takes you out of the game, or takes me out of the game, because everything just looks a bit washed out and mushy, and it really makes it feel like you're actually looking at a screen. It's not that it just feels lighter, it's that it really just comes across. It really comes across as that you're looking at a screen rather than being in a VR headset. And I never really had that problem on the original Oculus Rift or the original Vive, obviously because they used OLED screens, though the resolution on them was piss poor. So you've got to pick your poison. So I do, as I say though, the Rift S seems a little bit less washed out with the dark areas than the Vive. And I think part of that, I've done all the updates and everything to Steam, rechecked the files and everything, but I think part of it is partly to do with how the drivers of the headset are and how Steam VR does brightness and contrast and how you can control it in the headset. And I would hope that when the Valve Index has been out for a bit longer, developers will be able to adjust the brightness and contrast for the screen, or maybe Valve will kindly put a brightness contrast adjustment option in Steam. That would be a really nice thing to have, and I think that would actually alleviate a lot of the issues. I mean, at the end of the day, LCD is always going to be washed out compared to OLED, but I think it's worse right now than it has to be, if that makes sense. But yeah, other than that, absolutely amazing. I mean, the other day I was playing one of the GoldenEye maps, Bunker, and it was so good playing it in VR because obviously, you know, I with me being like 300 years old, I grew up playing Counter-Strike before school, you know. So I have good memories of playing those maps. I've not seen Archive in Pavlov though. That's the map I want to play. Archive Golden Gun. That's where the fun was to be found. But it's so nice to actually feel like you're in the map. It's like being at a theme park or something, or playing paintball, but inside the levels that you grew up with. Also, one thing that the index does, trying to focus more on the index aspects of this for those of you interested in getting an index, the sound in this game is absolutely amazing. Like the actual clarity of the sound for the gun firing and the firing in the distance and the footsteps. Pavlov does a really good job with it, and then when you combine that with the Valve index, thank God the bots are terrible. When you combine the sound quality of this game with the headphones or the little mini speakers that are on the Valve index, it's so good. That to me adds a ton more immersion than what I get on other headsets. Again, the sound on the index absolutely destroys the Rift S, and also I find the sound on the index way more immersive than using the HTC Vive earbuds with the HTC Vive. I mean, of course, you still get really good. The earbuds on the HTC Vive and the Vive Pro are nice, and also the HTC Vive Pro head mount thing is okay. But the speakers on this index they really add so much to the VR experience. It can't be stated enough. It's unbelievable to me that Oculus totally dropped the ball with the Rift S and the speakers on that, because that really is massively detrimental to the immersion. But with this index, it will blow your nipples off, that's for sure. So talking a bit more about the hand controllers, we go to the next. Going to finish this game actually. We'll load another stage up, another custom map. Some of the maps don't have the spawns and stuff in place correctly for bots to actually load in properly. Oh, interestingly, the Gravel Wars Dust Bowl map here is basically you play the game like Team Fortress, capping the maps. So not only do you have the custom maps, but you also, as I say, have the individual game modes there. We've got this High Rise, which is the map from Call of Duty, 007 Runway. Well, let's try that one. Let's see how that works. Let's see if that works with bots here. Let's put them on hard and Team Deathmatch. There we go. We'll load that in. So a good tip actually as well, I've found with a lot of Steam VR games, is if you turn off load to display grid when the game pauses, because what you'll find is if you've got smoothing and the reprojection stuff on, the edges just go black, but you can still move your head, but it doesn't take you out of the game if the game hangs or pauses at all. So there's a pro tip for you. But anyway, let's talk about the controllers here and what's good and bad about them. So the first thing with these controllers, with the Knuckles controllers, is of course the left stick full extent push down controversy, with the joystick not working perfectly all the time in terms of push down. Now I can actuate it when moving forwards, but it doesn't click. And also my left joystick, not sure if you could hear that, actually squeaks, which isn't ideal. Fortunately, this game does have a auto run mode, so you run when you've got the gun down automatically if you enable it in game, and then when you bring it up, it puts you into walk, which is, I think, one of the best ways of doing running in VR titles, to be honest. And you'll also notice I'm using snap turn, which I like to use. I think it ruins immersion a little bit, but it's lazy, and I like being lazy. Look at those crates, absolutely gorgeous. Dead. I mean, just so good being we're inside a GoldenEye level. How insane is that, guys? It's like the 90s, but more VR-y. I mean, imagine if they remade a GoldenEye game now in VR. Imagine just like GoldenEye, full GoldenEye in VR. I'd pay a good amount of money for that. So, other aspects of the controllers. Now, what I would say, personally, is that I do find that because the way they work, you've got the finger tracking. It's not implemented in this game properly yet. But what I do find is the way the grip works on the index controllers is it's based on like pressure rather than there being a button on the side of it like the original Valve controllers, and rather than there being a sort of potentiometer, like a thing that moves like you have on the Oculus Rift controllers. It's purely like you squeeze it. And I personally have to say it doesn't work as satisfyingly or as reliably as the Oculus Rift controllers or a button. I'm definitely of the school of thought of like, there's a reason why we use buttons. They work well, you know, when you're pushing them. They've got an inbuilt haptic response there. And I do find that though it works with the index controllers, and you get, I've done quite a few hours on it now, I'm kind of used to it. I'd still do prefer actual buttons for me personally. When you first get the index controllers, if you've got used to the Steam controllers or the Rift controllers, you'll find you're constantly accidentally squeezing the controller and dropping your gun over and over again. But you do get used to that, and you stop doing that. You don't squeeze the controller so much. So some of it is getting used to it, but even then, even after having got used to it and it not being annoying, I definitely prefer an actual physical grip. It's a massacre. Oops. Now you notice there, one other aspect of the index controllers that I'm personally not getting on too well with is that it has touchpads on it. And now in the case of this game, you can disable the touchpad, so keep that in mind. I've just not done that yet. But it has touchpads on it, and the touchpads are good for when you bring up the menu. We need to get killed here so we can bring up the menu. Let's make ourselves an obvious target. Now, the touchpad is good for selecting stuff like this in general. It's actually quite a nifty way to select it. You can use a joystick, and if this game was designed a bit better with the joystick, especially with the click down, then the joystick would probably work better overall. But the touchpad kind of works really nice, but then it's got like a bevel on the touchpad that makes it hard to, if you want to get up the top or go down, and then when you do push down to make the selection, you notice that the cursor's moving because the touchpad is beveled in. It's not even beveled in a circular shape, which would have made quite a lot of sense, I think. It's beveled in a sort of elongated shape. So the touchpad doesn't, though the functionality is there, and you do get some of those aspects of that Steam controlled touchpad mouse aspect, which in some ways is good. It's like it doesn't work perfectly, and it's a bit of an irritation. I've started to get used to it and sort of work my way around it, but it really isn't intuitive, and it really doesn't feel right. So again, that touchpad aspect and the accidentally pushing it, if you've got it enabled in the game, you're trying to use the joystick to like snap turn, and then you'll accidentally move your finger near the touchpad. You have to push down on it, and it will rotate you. So again, the index controllers. The touchpad's a bit funky. So this is my sort of thing with the Valve Index. There's been a continuing theme is that the headset is absolutely amazing, apart from the black levels. The headset's absolutely amazing, especially with Pavlov. Adds so much to it. But the touch controllers, they let you play the game. They work. You can get used to them. But they certainly are nowhere near as intuitive as playing with the Oculus Rift controllers, and obviously cost a lot as well. But I mean, the price of things is the price of them. It's new technology. It's my complaint isn't necessarily on the price. It's just on the underlying functionality and feel of them as gaming devices. It'll be really interesting moving forward to seeing how, if games implement them differently, how much of an impact that makes. What? He's gone cartwheel. We've got to run to the plane, guys, to escape the level. Oh no, that's GoldenEye. Oh man, the guns in this are so satisfying to just shoot at a basic level. Oh, That's not how you do it. Let's get a sniper rifle. Now, I've had some people complaining about the tracking fidelity with the index controllers. Personally, I've not had a problem with that. I find that when it comes to Steam VR, the tracking is always pretty damn good. Let's get the best here. You notice we've got all the menu options. It's very similar to Counter-Strike in terms of sort of buy menu. Obviously, it's just team deathmatch. I've got to get some snipey shots on people here. There we go. Oh, no. What? Come on. Where is he? Boom, headshot. That's teammate. There's a guy there. Actually, one thing I have found isn't the tracking, but the innate position of the guns in this. Shot in the arse. When I've been playing shooters with the index and the index controllers, and again, I don't know how much of this is to do with them not being fully set up by the developers yet because it's all new. Guns, when I just shoot based off where I intuitively think the bullets will go, guns seem to by default be pointing a bit lower than I intuitively expect, so I have to adjust and lift up compared to the Oculus Rift S controllers and the original Vive controllers. So that's something to keep in mind. But, I wouldn't say the controllers add anything to Pavlov, the index controllers, whereas the headset definitely. Look at. You're not experiencing this. You're watching this in 2D, but I'm in an aircraft hangar here. I look around and I'm here. I'm on this runway with an aeroplane. The actual height of it, the scale of it. The clarity of everything, it is amazing. It's absolutely, truly amazing. It's even snowing. It's Christmas. Let's throw a gun on the floor. So, there's not really that much more to say other than, at this point in time, I've not tried the Pimax yet with Pavlov because I've had trouble getting my the controllers, either the Steam or the index controllers, to work at the same time as the Pimax. But out of all the VR headsets that I've tried with Pavlov, the index headset is just, it's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you like sort of stood up VR shooters, and I think the index headset is probably going to be the headset that you have to go for. And given that the headset as well, it's £460, you do need the lighthouses, but the headset on its own is just such incredible value for money. I mean, look at this floor texture. This is what you're paying for, guys. High quality, pristine concrete floor textures. That's what all this upgrading your PCs for the concrete textures. So what is the point in this video? The first point is, if you've not got Pavlov, you have to get it. The features, the maps, it's incredible. Probably one of the better value for money VR games out there at this point in time, just because they're just all the game modes, and playing it with friends is really good fun. So that's one thing. Get Pavlov if you haven't got it. And the second thing, at this point in time, Valve Index is the best headset to play Pavlov with, in my opinion. So there you go. Glad we got that out of the way. I'll look forward to playing you guys with this and shooting you in the face whilst laughing at you, and whilst you shoot me in the face. It goes both ways. But if you enjoyed this video, I know it's a bit of a meandering talk. If you enjoyed this, though, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Oh, actually, before we do go, if you change your frame rate of your headset, I'm running at 120 Hz. To me, that's a sweet spot with this headset. Using the motion smoothing 120 Hz, then that seems to work the best. But if you do change the frame rate of your headset, make sure you click auto detect when you load the game up, and that will auto detect. It seems to switch it to the right settings. So there you go, pro tip. But yeah, right, ending this video. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you in the next VR video or live stream or driving sim thing we do. As I say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Subscribe and like. Take care. Goodbye.